Hey guys, what's going on? Andy Brew here, bringing you my personal review of Final Fantasy XV's episode Ardyn. And before we get started, I want to let you guys know that there will be spoilers for Final Fantasy XV, specifically episode Ardyn, so watch at your own risk. Now, I played Final Fantasy XV a long time ago, so you won't find any streams of Final Fantasy XV on this channel, and you won't find a stream of episode Ardyn, because this was a DLC that, there's just some games that I just want to play for myself, some content that I want to play just for myself, and, well, this was one of them. So, I just want to let you guys know real quick, before we get into the review, where I stand on Final Fantasy XV as a whole, because I realized that this game, when it came out, and even, like, to this day, it's seen as, like, a big letdown in the Final Fantasy community, and a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of people were very disappointed on it. I just want to, like, just say where I stand on it. I loved Final Fantasy XV. But what I loved most about it was the story. I absolutely loved the story of FF15. The gameplay and the combat was like okay, but the story was like so good. I absolutely loved it, and I will say that I loved episode Ardyn. Now, this review is going to consist of what I thought about the gameplay as well as the story, and I do want to let you guys know that this is all my opinion, so if you agree with it, that's great, and if not, that's totally okay too. First things first, I want to talk about the gameplay. Now, the gameplay for Final Fantasy XV as a whole has always been kind of like okay, it doesn't really have the best combat, I will say. As far as episode Ardyn gameplay, I will say that I was fine with it. I didn't mind it, just because what I was used to with FF15, with the base game, and what we've gotten for other DLCs, I was fine with it. I think Ardyn's movesets were really cool. I really liked the ability to demonify enemies, like suck the energy out of them, and I really liked the skill tree. I liked that this DLC had a skill tree for Ardyn, and I thought it was cool that Ardyn's skill tree, it's called a Descension skill tree, and Noctis's is called an Ascension skill tree. So that was unique, that was interesting. I liked being able to break stuff and get points for it. I liked being able to, zip across the map with Ardyn's warping ability, and I also really enjoyed being able to explore Insomnia, especially during the daytime, because the only time that you ever get to really play in Insomnia and get to walk around Insomnia is just when it's nighttime, when it's dark, and pretty much like at the end of the game of 15. Going back to the combat, like I said before, I really liked Ardyn's attacks, but I just felt very limited of what I could do in terms of basic attacks and standard combos. We have the Royal Arms. I feel like it would have been really cool to actually use the Royal Arms, or even have my own armature for Ardyn specifically, and just use that to its full potential. Like with Noctis, we could use each and every Royal Arm that we had, but we couldn't really do that with Ardyn. We just kind of had a couple attacks that we can do, and that was pretty much it. Also, the Cerberus rifle was like really pointless in my opinion. There was really no need for it. I don't even know who really would use that in the first place, because it's just, when you can just warp strike and just wipe out enemies that way. Again, it's not really needed, but I did like doing techniques with Ifrit. I thought that was super cool. And can we just talk about the hat customization for a second? I thought that was so funny. That was such a good touch, because Ardyn has a really unique sense of style, and I liked being able to buy different hats for him and try out different hats. It looks, I can't really take him seriously when I do that, but I mean, it was really fun. It was really funny. And also, whenever you go to when you go to save at one of the park benches, in the midst of like all this chaos, you can just sit at a park bench, and there's like this super like heavy like rap rock theme playing whenever you're in Insomnia, wreaking havoc with Ifrit. And basically, yeah, wreaking havoc, and you go sit at this park bench, and it's like this super slow, like chill theme, like I don't even know what kind of theme it would be, but like it's in the base game. He's just sitting at a park bench, and he's just reading a magazine, reading a newspaper in the midst of all the chaos. It's things like that that I appreciate, that really make the DLC fun for me. One thing that I do want to bring up real quick before we get into story stuff, and this kind of, I guess this kind of goes with like the variety of enemies type thing, but I just think it's like funny that we have like 100 and some Kings of Lucius and 13 Royal Arms, yet the only kings of yore that we get to fight are the Fierce and the Rogue. This isn't like a huge thing, but I just think it would have been really, really cool if we got to actually, we have 13 royal arms. It would have been really cool to fight against, like, at some point, whether it's in episode Ardyn or just in the base game, that we get to fight, like, each, experience each royal arm fighting against us in combat, and like 13 kings in combat. I think that would have been really, really cool, and I just feel like that could, all we had was the Fierce and the Rogue, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's whatever, but I just feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity to do something like that in terms of variety. Anyway, now moving on to what I'm really, really excited to talk about, which is the story of episode Ardyn. Oh my gosh, I loved this story. I loved getting, I loved just seeing things from Ardyn's perspective and playing in his shoes, and honestly, like, I'm gonna be real, like, especially after watching the prologue and, like, actually playing this DLC, Ardyn did nothing wrong. Like, he literally didn't do anything wrong. He was genuinely, at the beginning, he was a good guy. He was a healer. He was the savior of the people. And the reason why he's so evil and twisted now is essentially because of Somnus, because his brother, Ardyn was supposed to be the one to sit the throne. Like, the throne was actually Ardyn's by right, and Ardyn just got not kind of, but actually, like, severely screwed over by his brother. His brother, he kills Era, his beloved, the love of his life. It just kills her. And then because of the Star Scourge, Ardyn becomes corrupt and full of hate towards his brother, and just, he just becomes more and more twisted because of the Star Scourge inside him. And I think, like, I don't know if I read this right. I could be completely wrong. I thought they were going to kind of expand upon this more in the story, in the DLC, unless I missed it. But I'm pretty sure that, if I read correctly, that Ardyn actually absorbed the Star Scourge, or like the demons or something, into him. And because he wanted to save humanity, he actually absorbed that darkness into him. And in turn, it was going to grow more and more over time, and then he was going to become evil because of it. So he was a really selfless man who honestly just got screwed over. And the boss fights were super intense. I mean, there wasn't very many boss fights, but they carried so much weight to them in terms of story. You fight Regis, which, it's he's the current king of Lucius versus the original founder king, which is Ardyn. And just, that the hate, I actually was feeling what Ardyn was feeling as I was playing this DLC, and oh my gosh, getting to fight Somnus at the end was crazy. He gets to fight his brother. He seeks revenge, and ultimately, again, he gets screwed over because he has lost everything. And what was honestly so heartbreaking, and really what made me feel for Ardyn so much, was that scene with him and Bahamut. Because Bahamut basically explains to him that your role is to basically be the sacrificial lamb for the true king of Lucius. Like, your role, Ardyn, is just to be darkness. Your role is to spread darkness throughout the land. And Ardyn didn't want that. He did not want that at all, but he just got screwed over, and he did nothing wrong at the beginning. He did nothing wrong. I mean, he's killed so many people now, but it's all because he has so much hate in his heart, because he wants revenge, and that's what makes him such a good villain. Honestly, one of my favorite villains of all time across any video game, by far, 100%. But that scene between Bahamut and Ardyn is crazy because, again, you feel more and more for this villain because he lost everything, and now he's supposed to be a sacrifice for the true king. And it's crazy because at the end, it gives you a choice, like, do you submit your fate or do you resist? I basically played it to where, like, I wanted to see what both outcomes were, so I chose both. Originally, I chose resist because I was so mad. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I don't want to do this. And then I saw what the submit dialogue was like, and actually, I feel like that's like the truer ending, like the more canon dialogue, whenever you choose, like, to submit the fate, because he says, although, like, I didn't want any of this, although I have so much hate, I will submit to this fate, because as long as the bloodline of Lucius comes to an end, I'm okay with it. You know, that Ardyn is okay with it. And it sucks that, like, again, being in Ardyn's position, like, knowing I'm basically only in this universe to be evil and to spread darkness, even though that's not at all what I wanted, or he was such a good guy. And I keep saying that again, but it just blows my mind just to how recontextualized the villain comes. And even before this DLC, I still admired Ardyn as a villain so much. He was still one of my favorite villains of all time. This DLC just made me love him even more. Just seeing, the why to how he became the villain that he is. I also really liked all of, like, the lore stuff in terms of, like, whenever you're in the lab with Verstale, seeing all, like, the things that you can read in terms of lore of, like, the demons, just like the gods and, like, stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting. I probably spent a good 20-25 minutes reading that stuff. I'm really into that stuff, especially with this Final Fantasy universe. I thought it was amazing. Now, this DLC did cost $10, so in terms of, like, was it worth it? I think honestly what you can do is you can just YouTube a playthrough of it, and you can live vicariously through just watching someone else play it and be fine. It's about 2 to 4 hours to complete. But yeah, I mean, if you got $10 laying around, absolutely, please buy it, please play it. It genuinely is a different experience whenever you play a game and experience a story, instead of just watching gameplay and just watching a story, watching the cutscenes online. It really is a different experience, and in my opinion, a much better experience, Now, I could rate this DLC on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm not really going to, just because I don't really know what kind of rating I would give it yet. Because, after a few days of processing it, so I can't really decide what to give it. I liked it a lot, but, there's definitely some things that could have been better. But I will say, in terms of all the DLC content that we've gotten for Final Fantasy 15, I will say that Episode Ardyn is my second favorite DLC. Episode Ignis will always be my favorite. That DLC was so good. So, it was so emotional. It was so intense, and just having, like, the alternate ending with Ignis being the hero, and also just, like, Ignis putting on the ring, that was, it was just so intense. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Episode Ignis to this day is probably still my favorite. But in terms of, I guess, just raw story, Episode Ardyn, definitely the best. And I think Episode Ardyn was, definitely, they're not doing the Dawn of the Future DLCs anymore. That got cut, that got canceled. But I think this was a good close for Final Fantasy 15 as a whole. And finally, real quick, I just want to say, Darren DePaul, amazing job with the voice acting. I loved his voice acting in the base game for Ardyn, and I really felt like in this DLC, we see different sides of Ardyn, and Darren DePaul really, really, really did so well in terms of voicing different ranges, I guess, of Ardyn's character. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this wasn't like a super long review. I just want to kind of give my quick opinion on my thoughts of this DLC, because I really did like it. But again, I just want to throw my thoughts out there. Let me know what you guys think if you've played it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe for more content in the future. I'm Andy Brew. I'll see you later.